Bitcoin is down about 9%. Altcoins have also bled a little bit. And some people are already calling the top, and Capo thinks it's going to be a black swan. And yeah, the world's going to end. That's just how the financial markets work. And it was looking pretty good. But you can't have that much green momentum without any sort of pullback or pushback from anything. Let's be honest, it's not just up only. So today I'm going to walk through how August and September could be looking. It could be a bit of a lull. There's a lot of things happening over the course of these 2 months, and more importantly, could it actually genuinely be the last chance before we actually get some sort of liquidity change due to FOMC rate changes and policy? Certainly around the political landscape could be interesting. So yeah, stick around. We're going to go through the data, the chart, and my personal strategy over the course of the next few months. If you enjoy this sort of stuff, smash the like button and leave a comment what you're doing. Keen to know. Now, if you follow me in any way, shape, or form, you may have seen a lot of these charts anyways. I've had a busy weekend. I've not changed anything. And this is where we are. Daily time frame. We've gone somewhat bearish, you could argue, on the RSI at the top there. But Bitcoin has dropped a couple of percent. It's not really that bad, in my opinion. It's very normal for a multi-green month, or green rallies, so to speak, right? So that in itself doesn't bother me at all, right? And each correction in this bull market has been roughly between 10 and 20%. It's not been that barbaric, which is quite good to know, right? So this is what kind of I want to kind of bring you all to reality, really. And you could argue it may be the perfect sentiment reset. And as I say, I know people in the comments will be like, "Oh my god, but you said there's going to be rotation." Yeah, and it didn't really happen, but we have corrected 9%. But as I say before, we have had these corrections before, and we've came out of the other side of it pretty damn well. So I'm not too worried. Now let's go back in time. Let's go back to last August, September sort of time. Same sort of situation. We kind of died off a little bit, and we kind of lulled around for a little bit, and we went lower, and then we rallied up a little bit, and then we went even higher. Now I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could. See? So you got to look at certain situations. Now, obviously, I could talk about a lot of things here. I could talk about the obvious in the room. Bitcoin, traditionally, August tends to be a bit crap. Now, I've not pressed the refresh button here. This is kind of the data at the minute. If I click the reset button, right, this is what we got. Now, July was somewhat on par. June was somewhat around the medium. May was somewhat in and around the areas. It's pretty good when you think about how level-headed the Bitcoin chart has been over the course of this year when you're looking at the bottom figures, right? So what's August going to be? It's going to be shit. Is September going to be shit? And are we going to get a awesome Q4? Maybe. Rate cuts are going to happen in September, remember? I think, personally, my personal opinion, not financial advice, of course. So yeah, if you want more stuff, by the way, link below. Discord is now open to free members. There's one chat and a couple of bits and pieces. Obviously, if you want the paid version, check out Patreon. All the links are below. Jump in. There's money off as well. But let's go a little bit deeper with Bitcoin. The only reason why I want to say that is because I believe we are doing a nice little correction, but I don't think we're going to take off just yet. Even though, as I said before, we've had a multi-green month, or in my case, orange. And you could argue a lot of things. You could argue a pullback into certain levels, which we're already kind of doing. We could obviously go deeper into this region, but we could also go much, much higher back up to this level here, which is kind of my zone of where I'm thinking, let's take some money off the table. It's perfectly aligned with that sort of level, right? And if I zoom out a bit, you'll probably notice this in more detail. It's a fibception. Ooh. Is it the final leg? Oh, but yeah, that is my overall analysis. My personal opinion is this is a final leg that we're going to be seeing potentially. And as you can see here, 2618, 1.2, 1.272 Fibonacci sequence. So it is nearly a perfect fibception. It is pretty amazing. And that's my personal thought on it. I think we are going to go in between that box, and it could well be the last leg. I know not many people would agree with me. But overall, when you look at the overall bigger picture, we are uptrending quite nicely, and it probably is going to be that final push in my viewpoint. If, keyword, if we're going to follow the 4-year cycle, which we may or may not be. But as you can imagine, this has been a pretty monstrous chart, and it is still looking relatively good. Even though the rest of the world currently, as it stands, is risk on. The crypto market flipped risk off over the course of the last few days. And yes, I was a bit slow on the uptake on it. I've been pretty busy. But reality is kids are off, and I missed out on the obvious short calls. But we could be pulling back up, and I will talk about that in a minute, so don't go away. And we could be going lower on altcoins, and I will talk about that in a second. Now, obviously, going back to August, September here, right? The only thing to verify this, obviously, the past. And I know past data doesn't always, give us future performance. And The one thing we can look realistically at is what is the volume doing on the ETFs and all that kind of stuff. Is it going to slow down? What's going to happen next? And it has somewhat slowed down a little bit over the last few days, and that is a bit of a worry. And we need to keep a close eye on it. And yeah, history tells us they are quite boring. Everyone's distracted, sentiment cooled off a little bit, people are on holiday, volume drops, and it snaps back a little bit. But the reality is that could be a really big opportunity for people to make some potential money via shorts, or more importantly, buy said dips, which I think psychologically is probably quite hard when you're looking at the market. And I think a lot of people still think Bitcoin's expensive. I think people think that probably Ethereum is expensive right now. And a red August doesn't statistically mean that it's an over on a bull market. Definitely not. And I've been here before where we have just went really, really bad for a bit, and it really does start to take off. And historically, yes, you could argue a strong Q4 would kind of complement a pretty poor August and September. But as I say, not financial advice, this could be a little bit different if we don't get any follow through for Ethereum volume, for example. And obviously, more importantly, Bitcoin, obviously. But you all know my stance on Ethereum. It holds the keys to the kingdom. It allows Solana to breathe. It allows XRP to move. And more importantly, it'll let the whole entire altcoin market do its thing, which it hasn't done over the last few days, unfortunately. By the way, if you want to trade, if you want to follow any trades or copy anything, check out Patreon. There's more trading going on in there now than ever before, especially with the Learning Crypto merge. But more importantly, you get 20% back on fees if you use Bluefin. It's a pretty good one. And as I say, the Trump interest rate obstacle is bigger than Powell. And these high interest rates are far, they're hitting heavy in terms of the news and that whole situation. And the big downside to a lot of this is like he wants lower rates. He wants to kind of do that and allow that. But we all know that that could also be an issue and it could allow the markets to wobble. So if there is a bit of an internal war, that could also be a very, very, very big problem. And it could allow the markets just to dry up a little bit because people will not want to invest. They will not want to trade. They will not want to put their money where their mouth is. Certainly when there's an internal thing going on. With that being said, we need to probably keep an eye on gold. Is gold going to go higher? It has been consolidating for a good few months now. It could actually blast much higher. But more importantly, you can see the US market has taken a bit of a nosedive. Yes, it's at all-time highs. It was due a correction. You could argue this could, consolidate at this region. Likewise with, the Russell and stuff like that, bit of a pullback. We were doing really well and then a massive nosedive down. So, yeah, it's not just a cryptocurrency in isolation. Yes, we could argue there's a couple of things here which we need to talk about, but more importantly, everything's pulled back. And it kind of came from Mr. Trump in terms of deadlines and tariffs and obviously the FOMC. Mr. Powell was very, very hawkish. But let's talk about Ethereum. Now, Ethereum still looks all right. It's still actually been relatively good. The BTC pairs today currently up. BTC dominance is down a little bit. It has pulled back a little bit. It's nothing too worrying about, in my opinion. And for me, it could well lead to some really big opportunities, as I said before, for some trading if we're going to get the volatility. The only downside to this is obviously it's not like perfect structure. It's a bit ugly, but it could actually pull back quite a lot. But it depends on what Bitcoin does, right? More importantly, as I say, though, this is still kind of an obvious kind of pullback region, realistically. You've got to look at the areas and think, well, this obviously going to pull back. And the one thing that I will say to a lot of people is $4,000 psychological level. Every time we go near it, we kind of nosedive off it, which is a bit unfortunate. And this is like a year-long element and a year-long battle, more than a year now. So that's important, right? Even the likes of XRP, as I've alluded to before in the past, we've had a big, massive run, big, massive pullback. Ugh. And that's the thing. Every single altcoin looks a bit ugly, but it's taken that share from the Bitcoin price and the BTC pairs with a rise in dominance. And that's kind of an obvious situation where we are going to pull back. And now it looks more likely we're going to maybe see a retest of some of the levels up here. Whether we go even higher is another story, or whether we just pull back around this region and go even lower, which could happen, but maybe not. I don't know. But for me, the ETF inflows are going to tell us what's going to happen with a lot of this market. Are they going to dry up? Are we going to be looking at situations around outflows, and is it going to be a lull? And as I said before, with all this situation around, the money flow, is it going to create a bit of a problem? And this is why we need to look at stable currency dominance. Now, for me, stable currency dominance is a perfect risk on, risk off sort of thing. It's a weird one. It's a bit, for me, it's a signal that tells us where the money's going. Is it going into the existing asset? Is it going out? And obviously, this is in a downtrend, right? And we are pulling back up, but we could also go lower here and it could allow the altcoins to breathe. And as I said, it could be the perfect pin pull for liquidity as we drive lower to rotate back into the market because the confidence is there. That confidence might not be there straight away because of obviously what's happening in the political landscape, but ultimately it may well come. So just keep an absolute close eye on this. And this is what allows me to kind of go, well, you know what, I should be going probably shorts now versus long. And we'll talk about my personal kind of thoughts in a minute. But the reality is here, this is much better than what it was, obviously, up here. But ultimately, money has rotated quite a lot into Ethereum over the last couple of weeks. And just to kind of prove this point, look at how the Ethereum dominance went from 7% up to nearly 12%, which is pretty mad, really. Bit of a big move and a bit of a rotation, but not enough to satisfy everyone just yet. So in terms of what I'm doing, if you've been watching any of my content, and certainly if you've been following on X, I did a really good trade on Link not too long ago in terms of long, looking to go potential short, maybe if the market kind of shows its kind of head. And I'm trying to stay calm in this lull, but if volume does drop, if everything just change a little bit, you're probably going to see some really obvious pullbacks. And that's a thing. These pullbacks can be quite obvious. And if August and September is allowing accumulation and refining those entries and managing risk, it might allow prices to fall because, as you all know, liquidations happen everywhere in this market, especially with late longs and late shorts. So when we go on to like obviously altcoins, right? I'm looking at CRV potentially, where this is obviously a big Ethereum play. We could be pulling back from this zone and then we could be going back down. But obviously, look at these amount of candles. It's going to pull back into this here somewhere, right? Likewise with Chainlink, I had a really good run up. We've obviously pulled back quite a lot, but we weren't really bearish enough. It may well pull back a bit higher and then we may well go back down and retest these levels. This is kind of the situation that I'm looking at, and I'll be talking about this on Patreon quite a lot. Likewise with the likes of Cardano, again, it's obviously in structure, lower high and stuff like that, but pull back in towards these regions and then we may well just dribble back down. And I know it's bearish, but ultimately that's how the game is. We may well just go back down to these lows again. Nothing wrong with that. And that's a situation because Bitcoin is still strong. Bitcoin may not actually pull back. It might just be these BTC pairs below my head pulling back again because, as you can imagine, they've pulled up quite a bit. They've failed and then may well go back down lower. So again, the mistake is panicking into the red months, but ultimately there might be opportunity to make some money somewhere. There may be some good buy opportunities. There may well be good shorting opportunities. There might be a lot of different things, but certainly in this cycle, you don't get rewarded for hesitating, unfortunately, which is a bit of an issue. So there we go. If you like this sort of stuff, leave a like and a comment more, obviously, and subscribe for more. And more importantly, as you should know, watch this video that I'm recommending.